So, having finished with Rajya Sabha, we will be now moving on to the another house of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha. Now, before we move on to the Lok Sabha, what we'll do is we will try to recall what we have studied so far in Rajya Sabha. Now, as I said, Rajya Sabha is a house which is continuing or permanent in nature. That is, it is not going to dissolve after some amount of time. Rather, what happens is after 3 years, sorry, after 2 years, every one-third members of the Rajya Sabha are going to retire and new members of Rajya Sabha are going to come into the house. And now, when I say new members are going to come into the house, how is the elections for Rajya Sabha held? The elections of Rajya Sabha are held in accordance with the proportional representation with the open ballot and a single transferable voting system. Now, I forgot to explain to you people what is this single transferable voting system. Let me give you an example. Let us assume I am an electorate in the Rajya Sabha election. Now, when I say I am an electorate in the Rajya Sabha election, what I have to do is I have to vote to the candidate who is contesting for the Rajya Sabha. Now, when I vote to the candidate, the option that I have is that I will be having an option to vote for four people at once. Now, what is this voting for four people at once? That is, I will have to, give a preference of preference number one, preference number two, preference number three, and preference number four for the different people who are contesting the election. Let us assume there are four people who are contesting election. The four people are person A, person B, person C, and person D. Now let us assume there are 10 people like me who are going to vote. Okay. Now, only one person can be elected to Rajya Sabha. There are 10 people like me who are going to vote, and then there are four people who are contesting. Okay. Now, what we will do is all the 10 of us will have to vote for these ABCD. But how are we going to vote? We are going to give preference. For example, I will be giving my preference number one to candidate A, preference number two to candidate B, preference number three to candidate C, and preference number four to candidate D. Now, what happens is, after all the 10 people votes in this manner, now let us assume person A or the candidate A has got four votes, candidate B has got three votes, candidate C has got two votes, and candidate D has got one vote. Now, nobody has got more than 50%. That is, nobody has got more than five people's vote. So what happens now is the person who has got the least number of vote, that is candidate D, will be eliminated from the race. Now, when the candidate D gets eliminated from the race, what is actually going to happen? What is actually going to happen is that the person who has voted for candidate D, his first preference was candidate D. His second preference might have been candidate A. So what happens is this vote of a person who voted for candidate D will be transferred to the person who is his second preference. In this case, the second preference is candidate A. So what happens now? Candidate A has five, candidate B has three, and candidate C has two. But having said this, having said this, having said this, even though this is the case, again now person A has not, crossed 50%. He is still at 50%, but he has not become more than 50%. Person B has now three votes. Person C has now two votes. Now, who is the person who has the least number of votes? It is none other than the person C. Now, what happens? The person C gets eliminated from the race. Now, when the person C is getting eliminated from the race, what it means is two people have voted for person C. That is, for two people, person C was the first preference. So they are eliminated from the race. Now, these two people might have given preference to some other people as their second preference. Let us assume these two people's second preference was A and B. So what happens? One vote gets transferred to A and another vote gets transferred to B. So what is the ultimate result? The ultimate result is person A has now 6 votes and person B has now 4 votes. So this is what we call as single transferable voting system. So this is the system that is followed in the Rajya Sabha election. I repeat, proportional representation with a single transferable voting system and also with the open ballot. So this is how the Rajya Sabha election is done. Now, then we also discussed that Rajya Sabha is an indirect election. That is, the common citizens of India don't directly elect the Rajya Sabha MPs. Rather, what we do, we elect our MLAs and the MLAs of each of the state. What we do, we elect the MLAs of the state, and these MLAs of the states elect Rajya Sabha MPs from their particular state. Clear? Now, another thing that I forgot to tell you was that Rajya Sabha for the first time was constituted in the year 1952. In the year 1952. Now, another thing that has to be mentioned here is that the origin of Rajya Sabha can be traced to the 1919 Government of India Act or the Montego-Chelmsford report, because it is this report that said that there has to be a bicameral legislation. It is this report that said that there has to be a bicameral legislation. Now, another question is, does Union Territories has representation in Rajya Sabha? The answer is yes. Union Territories also has the representation in Rajya Sabha. But what is the representation of Union Territories? Only those Union Territories which has the legislative assembly with them has the representation in Rajya Sabha. That is the legislative assemblies of Delhi, Puducherry, and Jammu and Kashmir. Another thing is the fourth schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with the allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha to the states and union territories. So these are some of the things. Now, continuing with Rajya Sabha, the maximum strength of Rajya Sabha is, as I told, it is 250, and the current strength of Rajya Sabha is 245. Now, who decides this number of MPs of Rajya Sabha? The power is given to the Parliament to decide this Rajya Sabha's total numbers. Then we also spoke about certain important or exclusive provisions of Rajya Sabha. So what are these exclusive provisions of Rajya Sabha? The exclusive provisions of Rajya Sabha is that it is the Rajya Sabha who alone can initiate the removal of vice president from the parliament. Number one. Number two, if the parliament wants to make a law on the national list or on the state, sorry, if the parliament wants to make a law on the state list, then who has to give approval for this? It is the Rajya Sabha who has to give approval for this. Now, what kind of approval? The members of Rajya Sabha present and voting has to give approval for this, and only then the parliament can make a law on the state list. Now, what is the duration of this law? The duration of this law will be 1 year. Another very important thing is that if a new All India service has to be created, at that point of time also, Rajya Sabha has to pass a resolution saying that it is going to give power to the parliament to create such and such new All India services. So these things are the important aspects of Rajya Sabha. But then what are the challenges of Rajya Sabha? The challenges of Rajya Sabha is that Rajya Sabha does not have any power. Rajya Sabha does not have any power in bringing down the government. That is, the motions like no confidence motion or adjournment motion or censure motion cannot be initiated in Rajya Sabha. Now, what are these motions? We will be learning in our upcoming videos. And not just that, Rajya Sabha also does not have any power related to the money aspects. And another thing is, whenever a joint sitting is held for a constitutional amendment, sorry, whenever a joint sitting is held for an ordinary bill, the numbers of Lok Sabha easily supersede the numbers of Rajya Sabha, and Lok Sabha becomes all important in the decision making of the ordinary bill in case of the joint sitting. Another very important thing is the chairperson of this Rajya Sabha is none other than the vice president of India. But the most important aspect of Rajya Sabha is that if there is a constitutional amendment bill, then the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha has to pass it separately. There is no provision for a joint sitting, that is, people of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha coming together to pass this constitutional amendment bill. So what we can understand is that the Rajya Sabha is not a secondary chamber, rather it is an important second chamber in India's bicameral parliamentary system. So I hope you have understood about Rajya Sabha. Now let us continue with the Loka Sabha. So now let us continue with the Lok Sabha. Now, just as Rajya Sabha is considered as the house or the council of states, Lok Sabha is considered as the house of the people. Now, why it is considered as the house of the people? The answer is simple, because Lok Sabha has the members of parliament who are elected directly by the people, who are directly elected by the people of India. Now, coming to the composition of Lok Sabha. Now, what is the composition of Lok Sabha? Now, look at these numbers very carefully. I'll also say certain changes to this number. Before 2 years, before 2 years, or before 2019, I can say before 2019, the maximum strength of Lok Sabha was 552. In that 552, 530 members were from different states, 20 members were from the union territories, that is all the 8 union territories, and 2 members were nominated by the president. Now, who were these 2 members? These 2 members were the Anglo Indians. Now, who are these Anglo Indians? The people of the British descendant who stayed back in India after the Indian independence. So, their descendants, 2 members of such people were also nominated to the Lok Sabha. So it was 530 from states, 20 from union territories, and 2 members from the Anglo-Indian community. Now, what happened after 2019? In the year 2019, there was the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir, and Jammu and Kashmir was downgraded from state to that of union territory. And not just that, 2 years back, 104th Constitutional Amendment Act was passed, which also resulted in the abolition of this Anglo-Indian nomination to the Lok Sabha and and to the state legislative assemblies. Now, after this 104th Amendment and after the bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir, what is the present standing? The present standing is that there are 543 elected members from Lok Sabha. Now, who are these 543 members? 524 are from states and 19 are from the union territories. So, for a party to form a government, what is the magic number that is required? It is 543 divided by 2, or more than 543 divided by 2, that is 272 is the magic number. Clear? I hope this is clear with respect to the composition of Lok Sabha. Now, what is the system of election that is followed in Lok Sabha? Because see, in Rajya Sabha, what happened? In Rajya Sabha, it was proportional representation system with an open ballot and a single transferable voting system. But what is the system that is practiced in Lok Sabha? It is something called as first past the post system. Now, what is this first past the post system? You might have seen in the elections. You people go and vote in the Lok Sabha elections. Now, let us assume there is a constituency which has 1,000 voters, and there are 10 people who are contesting. Now, for a person to win this election, is it mandatory that this candidate or a candidate who is going to win the election gets more than 50% of the votes polled? That is, he gets more than 50,000 votes. Because what happened in Rajya Sabha, we saw that until a person gets more than 50%, there was transferable voting system. But in Lok Sabha, that is not the case. Why? Because in Lok Sabha, as I said, we follow a system called as first past the post system, which means that any person out of these 10 people who gets the maximum number of votes is declared as the winner. For example, out of these 10 candidates in this example, if person A gets 20,000, person B gets 15,000, person C gets 10,000, person B gets 5,000, and rest of the people get some 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000. Even in that case, and let us assume Nota is getting more than 20%, 20,000 also. Even in that case, The person who has the more number of votes, that is the person A who got 20,000, even though Nota got more than him, or even though he did not get more than 50% of the total votes polled, still he got highest among the people who contested. In that case, what is going to happen? In that case, the person who got the more highest number of votes, he will be declared as the winner. I hope this is clear. Now, what is the tenure of this Lok Sabha election? That is, it will be held every 5 years. It has to be held every 5 years. Now, before 5 years, let us assume the government loses the magic number due to some people, like defecting to other parties, or the coalition partners, not ready to support the government. What happens? Then a chance will be given to the opposition parties to stake the claim for the government. Even if they are not able to stake the claim, or if they are not able to garner the support to form a government, then what happens? A new general election will be held, whose term will also be 5 years and not just the remaining term. So this is the composition and the structure of Loka Sabha. Now, now let us try to understand the eligibility for the membership for the membership of Loka Sabha. Now, where is this eligibility given? It is given in the article number 84 of the Constitution of India. Now, what is this eligibility number one? The eligibility number one is that the person who wants to contest in the Lok Sabha election has to be a citizen of India. What kind of citizen? Any kind of citizenship is fine, but he has to be a citizen of India. Can this person be a non-residential Indian citizen? Yes. Can this person be an Indian, or okay, an Indian but whose name is not found in the electoral list? No, that is not possible. He or she has to be the citizen of India. Number one. Number two, the age requirement is minimum 25 years of age to contest for Lok Sabha election. Any person whose age has crossed 25 years of age can contest in the Lok Sabha election. Now, what is the age requirement for Rajya Sabha election? It is 30 years. Now, what are the other qualifications? The other qualifications are as prescribed by a law made by the Parliament. The Parliament of India has passed the law for this very particular purpose, called as Representation of the People's Act of 1951. Now, what does this law say? This law says that this person who is going to contest the election has to be an elector from any parliamentary constituency in India. For example, if a person wants to contest from the Lok Sabha constituency in Karnataka, can a person who belongs to the state of Haryana, can this person contest the election from Bangalore? The answer is yes. Why? Because his name is found in any one of the parliamentary constituency in India. See, I can give you an example here. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he belongs to which state? He belongs to the state of Gujarat. He belongs to the state of Gujarat. But where is he contesting the election from? From Uttar Pradesh. Clear? Now, what is another thing that this law says? For an SC or ST candidate, there will be certain seats reserved specifically for them. They can either contest from the general seat, or they can contest from the seats that are specifically reserved for the scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. But what is the condition? The condition is that they must be belonging to that particular community. They should have a certificate showing that this person belongs to SC community or ST community. So these are the eligibility for the membership under Article 84. Now, let us come to the disqualification of the members. Disqualification of the members of Parliament. I'm not speaking about Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. I'm speaking in general about Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Similarly, the qualifications I spoke was also in general to the parliament and not Lok Sabha in particular. It was also for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Similarly, these disqualifications are also in general for parliament, that is both for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now, where is this mentioned? This is mentioned in Article 102 of the Constitution of India. Now, what does this Article 102 speaks about the disqualification? Number one, if an MP voluntarily acquires the citizenship of a foreign state. For example, let us assume there is a person X. There is a person X who was a citizen of India, who was a citizen of India, and he got elected in an MP election, either from Lok Sabha or from Rajya Sabha. But after 2 years, this person also got the citizenship of another country apart from India. In that case, this member will be disqualified from the parliament. Will be disqualified from the parliament. Next, declared by a competent court to be of unsound mind. Now, what is this unsound mind? It means if that person is mentally unstable. If a person is mentally unstable, what it means that this person, being a representative of the people, will not be able to take decisions in the interest of the people, in the interest of the people. When that is the case, the court can declare this person to be of unsound mind and he can also be disqualified. Next, an undischarged insolvent. Now, who is this undischarged insolvent? That is, let us assume there is an MP who won the election, but after a few years, it is found that he has taken a loan from a bank and now he is not in a condition to repay this loan. He becomes an insolvent. Now, this undischarged insolvent can also be disqualified by disqualified for the membership of the parliament. Next, there is something called as holding dual membership. Now, what is this dual membership? A person cannot be the member of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha together. Let us assume there is a Lok Sabha MP who won the election and became a Lok Sabha MP. After 2 years, whenever there is a vacancy in Rajya Sabha also, he contests for the same Rajya Sabha MP also. Can he contest? The answer is yes, he can contest. But once he contests, let us assume he is also winning his Rajya Sabha election. If that is the case, can he continue to be a member of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? The answer for this is no. He has to choose between one. Otherwise, both of his seats will be disqualified. So he cannot be a dual member. The next criteria is that without permission, if this member is absent for all the meetings of the House for 60 consecutive days, let us assume the MP has a valid reason, maybe health condition, or he has to go on a business trip, etc. Anything, any condition. If that is the case, he has to obtain the permission from the presiding officer of the House. Now, who is the presiding officer of the Lok Sabha? It is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, it was the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, who is also the Vice President of India. But in Lok Sabha, it is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. It is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. When that is the case, now this Speaker, if the Speaker is not giving the permission, and still, if this member is absent from the Lok Sabha meeting or from Rajya Sabha meeting for 60 consecutive days, then he or she can be disqualified from the membership of the House. Now, then there is something called as disqualified by any law made by the Parliament. As we discussed in our just before, that is, there is an act called as Representation of the People's Act, which speaks about the qualification of members. The same act also speaks about certain disqualifications also. Now, what are these disqualifications prescribed by the Representation of the People Act? For example, if this MP, if this MP is found to be forcing enmity between the two communities, he can be disqualified. He can be disqualified. If he is found guilty of a corrupt practice by the Election Commission of India, this MP can also be disqualified. And not just that, if this MP failed to lodge the election expenses, then also this person can be disqualified. Similarly, if this MP is also found holding certain government contracts, then also this MP can be disqualified. So these are some of the disqualifications mentioned in the Representation of the People's Act. Now, then there is something called as 10th schedule or anti-defection law. Now, what is this anti-defection law? We will be discussing them in detail in our coming videos, but just for your understanding, in India, when an election is held, generally people elect a candidate not based on their individual merit. Rather, it will be mainly based on the party to which this candidate belongs. Now, when this is the case, let us assume tomorrow few candidates or tomorrow a candidate is winning from party X. After some time, he is jumping to another party. Now, can this be considered as ethical or can this be considered as moral? The answer is no. Why the answer is no? The reason is simple. He qualified or he became a member of parliament under the name of one political party, but now he is jumping to another political party. This jumping is what? This jumping from one political party to another political party is what we call as anti-defection. Anti-defection. Now, in order to overcome this anti-defection, there is a 10th schedule that was introduced in our constitution under the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. So, any person who is disqualified under this anti-defection law will also be disqualified, or this anti-defection law can also be considered as a ground for the disqualification of the membership. Now, there is another thing that is mentioned in the constitution saying that holding an office of profit under the government of India or any state government unless exempted by the Parliament of India. That is, if this Lok Sabha MP or a Rajya Sabha MP holds an office of profit under the government of India or any state government, in that case also, this MP can be disqualified from the membership of the House. Now, what is this office of profit? We will be explaining to you. Now, now let us try to understand this office of profit. But the first question is this office of profit mentioned in the Constitution of India? Yes, it is mentioned in the Constitution of India. But is it defined? What exactly is this office of profit? The answer for that is no, it is not exactly defined. What is this office of profit? Okay, but where is this defined? There is an act specifically for this office of profit. In that act, it is defined. So it is very important to remember that the word office of profit is mentioned in the Constitution of India, but it is not defined in the Constitution of India. Now, what does Article 102, Clause 1, Subclause A says? It says a person is disqualified from being a member of parliament if they hold any office of profit under the government of India or any state government, unless that office is declared by the parliament by law not to disqualify its holder. Now, what is this office of profit? The answer for this or the explanation for this is very simple. Now, we elect our MPs or we elect our representatives to be our voice, to serve our needs. Now, for being a member of parliament, they are given certain salaries, certain perks, certain amenities by the government of India or by any state government. Now, when that is the case, can these MPs also hold other positions in the government, in the central government or in the state government, which gives them certain profit? The answer is no. Why the answer is no? Because if that is the case, then the independence of the members of the parliament will be compromised. That is, this member of parliament's focus will be primarily on his other activity and not on his or her activity as the member of the parliament. And it might also lead to certain conflict of interest. It also leads to certain conflict of interest. Now, to overcome this, it is said that the people who belongs to the office, who holds this office of profit, are also disqualified. Now, I know that this is not very much clear to you. Let me try to explain to you this with an example. Now, have you heard about Amitabh Bachchan? I guess most of the people would have heard about Amitabh Bachchan. Now, who is this Amitabh Bachchan? Amitabh Bachchan is a famous Bollywood actor. Now, is Amitabh Bachchan important for us? No. Now, who is important for us is Jaya Bachchan. Now, who is this Jaya Bachchan? Jaya Bachchan is Amitabh Bachchan's wife. Now, what happened with respect to the Jaya Bachchan? Now, what happened with respect to Jaya Bachchan? Jaya Bachchan, as we all know, is a well-known member of the parliament. She has been the member of LOKSABHA, she has been the member of Rajya Sabha, etc. Now, what happened with Jaya Bachchan was that Jaya Bachchan was appointed, or the government of Uttar Pradesh in the early 2000s appointed Jaya Bachchan as the chairperson of the Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council. Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council. Now, once she was appointed, she was given the rank of a cabinet minister. She was given the rank of a cabinet minister. Now, she was also an MP. She was also an MP. Apart from that, she was also made the chairperson of the Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council. And not just that, she was given an honorarium of 5,000 rupees per month. A daily allowance was also fixed for her. An entertainment expenditure was also fixed for her. She was also given a car with driver, a personal residence, etc. All these kind of things were given to her. Now, certain members raised objections to it. Now, what was the objection? The objection was that she was already an MP. When she is already an MP, she is given certain perks under the government of India or under the state government. Now, when that is the case, how can she also be appointed as a chairperson of the Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council, which also has certain monetary benefits? Now, when this was the case, the matter went to the Election Commission of India. Now, why Election Commission of India? Because ultimately, with respect to the disqualification, it is the Election Commission of India who takes the decisions. Now, the matter went to the Election Commission of India. Now, the Election Commission of India said that Jaya Bachchan is disqualified. Why? Because the Election Commission of India said that she was holding the office of profit. Now, what did Jaya Bachchan do? Jaya Bachchan went to the Supreme Court of India. Now, the Supreme Court of this famous case was called as the Jaya Bachchan case of 2000. Now, the Supreme Court studied this case in detail and declared that Jaya Bachchan be disqualified for holding the office of profit. Now, what did Supreme Court said? The Supreme Court laid out few conditions. Now, what were these conditions? The Supreme Court said that if four conditions are met, then the person can be disqualified. This or the member of the parliament or the legislative assembly can be disqualified for holding an office of profit. Now, what is this four condition? Condition number one: this elected representative must held must have held an office. That is, for example, if tomorrow, if tomorrow there is a case, tomorrow if there is a case which says that there is some XYZ corporation in the government of India, and the government of India is electing one of its elected representatives to be the chairperson of that XYZ corporation. Now, when that is the case, can this be considered as an office of profit? The first criteria for this is that if that office was specifically created in order to make sure that this representative holds it, if that is the case, then yes, it is an office of profit. But no, there were few other people before this person, and after this person, there will be few other more people who will be the chairperson of this. In that case, it will not be an office of profit. That is number one. Now, in this case, was Jaya Bachchan the only person holding this office, the answer was this. The answer for this is no. So she was not disqualified under this condition. But the second condition, it involves certain gains to the elected representative, be it salary, be it amenities, be it facilities, be it perks. Now, did Jaya Bachchan get all these kind of things? Yes. The answer was yes. She got all these kind of things from the position that she held. And this office was also an office under the government of India or a state government. So these were the two conditions under which Jaya Bachchan was disqualified from for holding the office of prophet. And another condition, the Supreme Court said that this office should not be the one declared by the parliament not to disqualify its holder. That is, there is an act, that is the Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1959, which has been already amended 5 times. If this act says that this office does not disqualify a person or a representative for holding it, or this office does not come under office of profit, then there is no problem in it. Then there is no problem in it. So Jaya Bachchan was disqualified, or the decision of the Election Commission of India to disqualify Jaya Bachchan was upheld by the Supreme Court of India. I hope this is clear. Now you might ask me a question. There are elected representatives, there are MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha who are also the ministers. So on one side they are also representatives, on the other side they are also ministers. Can this be possible? The answer for this is yes, this is possible. Why this is possible? Because the Parliament in this Act, Prevention of Disqualification Act of 1959, has kept certain positions out of office of profit. What kind of positions? For example, the positions of ministers, the positions of the chairpersons of certain national bodies, or any other positions which this act says. So, if this act says that this position does not come under office of profit, then there is no issue. So, I hope this is clear with respect to the disqualification under of the office of profit. Now, see, again, as I told, so these are certain exemptions from the office of profit. Certain positions are legally exempted to facilitate governance, including ministers, including the leader of opposition. The leader of opposition is given the status of the rank of a cabinet minister. So when he is given the status of a cabinet minister, there are also certain salary that is given to him. So he has a salary, he or she has a salary of being a representative, he or she has a salary of being the leader of opposition also. But these things are exempted from the office of profit. Now, then there is something called as disqualifying authority. Now, who is the authority to disqualify these people? The authority is that the advice has to be given by the Election Commission of India to disqualify any of the people based on the above criteria. Who has to give the advice? The advice has to be given by the Election of Commission of India. To whom is the advice given? The advice is given to the President of India. Now, is this advice binding on the President? Is it mandatory for the President to follow it? The answer is yes, it is mandatory for the President to follow this advice. That is, the advice is binding. So once the advice Election Commission of India gives to the President has to act on it and has to disqualify these members for violating certain aspects. Now, there was one case called as anti-defection law. Now, the exception is that the disqualification under anti-defection law is decided not by the Election Commission of India or by the President. Rather, it is decided by the presiding officer of the House. That is, for example, if an MP from Lok Sabha defects to another party, then the Speaker decides about this disqualification. If an MP from Rajya Sabha defects to another party, then the chairperson of Rajya Sabha decides on this disqualification. So this is the difference. Then coming to the resignation of membership, that is, any member can give resignation to his MP position whenever he wants. Now, to whom the resignation is given? To the presiding officer of the House. That is, in Lok Sabha, it is the Speaker, and in Rajya Sabha, it is the chairperson. Now, is it mandatory for the presiding officer to accept this resignation? The answer is no. It is not mandatory. If the presiding officer feels that this resignation was involuntary, or if this resignation was forced upon this MP, then the presiding officer is not bound to accept this resignation. So this is an overview of The topic Loka Sabha. I hope you have understood this topic.